questions that people have. Is God good? Is God real? So that's what we'll be discussing today and over the next 3 weeks after this. And we're using each week questions that we got from people that we asked right around Memphis. We went to the University of Memphis. We went down to the downtown district where people were working and on their lunch break. And we asked them what are their questions they had for God. And we kind of organized them into 4 areas based on the questions we got. So this week we're starting with the question of origin. All right, I want you to do me a favor also. Bookmark the website, goodgodforreal.com. We'll be putting discussion on there. And on Tuesday at 7 p.m., we want to host what we call a Google Hangout, where people can interactively ask questions and we'll answer them back and forth. So we want to host a discussion on that website, goodgodforreal.com. I want to start by saying that everyone believes in something. I remember my family and I, we went to the stadium and we stood in line and we got there early and we sat in the hot, blazing island sun. I was 13, so my brothers had to be around 9 and 7 years old or 6 years old. We were out there, paid a lot of money because we're a lot more expensive than a regular game, because as fans, we believed. We had a belief that day, next slide, that our team was going to win, and so we wanted to be witnesses to that event. One of the things I want us all to understand is everyone has belief in something or someone. You have belief. You have belief that you exercise when you decide to travel anywhere, whether by car or by plane, especially by plane, because you do not know the guy behind the cockpit. You don't know if he is sober. You don't know if he passed all of his classes, so you have belief. One of the greatest things that we use in terms of having belief is we have belief in someone to prepare our food who we do not see. We see the person we pay, we don't see the person who's preparing our food. So everyone exercises belief, and we have belief in so many different things. But one of the things we understand about our beliefs is our beliefs affect the way we look at the world. It's like a lens through which we look at the world. It's like when you go to the doctor's office and you put on those glasses and the world is fuzzy, but the glasses help you to kind of see and to differentiate things. I don't know, my first experience getting spectacles, I was a teenager, and I remember when I first got them, I noticed them, I was aware of them, but as I kept using them, I no longer was aware that I had them on. It just kind of became part of me. And that's the way our belief system works. You have a belief system, I have a belief system. We don't really talk about it, but our belief system, it colors the way we see the world. So we see the world through the lens of our beliefs. We see the world based on what we believe. And so our beliefs affect the way we see the world. They affect the way we see the world. Now, one of the things that I want to just set as a foundation today is that every belief system involves faith. Every belief system involves faith. I know sometimes we think people who are in the church realm, who are religious people, they exercise faith. But I want us to understand that people, whether you are religious, whether you are a naturalist, whether you're someone who does not believe in any divine order, you don't believe in any intervention from any being on high, everyone exercises faith in your belief system because no one can prove everything that they believe. So we all exercise faith. In fact, as we talk about belief, I wanted to show you a quote from someone who is one of the leading proponents of Darwinism. So he's someone who believes in science only, that there is no God, that there is no one from the outside who affects our world. And here's his quote. This is Richard Dawkins. He says, "I believe, but I cannot prove that all life, all intelligence, all creativity, and all design anywhere in the universe is the direct or indirect product of Darwinian natural selection." He says, "I believe, but I can't prove." What does that sound to you like? Doesn't that sound like he actually has to have some faith in the stuff he can't prove? And so I want us to first understand that faith is not something that is relegated and only in the realm of the church, but faith affects us all. We all have beliefs, but our belief system is also connected with faith. The other thing I want us to see is that our beliefs affect our behavior. What you believe about something will affect your behavior. In fact, one of the things I've noticed is your belief system and your behavior cannot be out of whack. It's like standing like 1 foot up. Everybody, you ever tried doing that? after a while, there's something that says, man, I need to balance. I need to have both of them planted on the same surface. I need to make sure that my beliefs and my behavior are both in alignment. And so if you end up changing your beliefs, what happens to you is you change your behavior. Have you ever had a food that you really liked? And you're like, man, I would eat this all the time, but then somehow you found out that it's bad for you. Not just like mildly bad for you, like really bad for you. Like if you eat this thing, man, you're going to have pains. It's going to affect you later. So your belief changes, and hopefully your behavior changes, because you don't want that bad reaction to happen. You don't want the allergic reaction to happen. Because your beliefs have changed, your behavior changes. So beliefs affect our behavior. They affect the way we see the world. They affect the way we live. And so as we talk about beliefs, as we talk about behavior, one of the things that we want to look at to answer the questions that were on the screen is the question of origin. Why are we here? How do we get here? Because I think all children ask that question, and grown-ups, we want to know that too. We've gone beyond the chicken and the egg and the stork story and, all that kind of stuff. And we want to know, okay, how did humanity start? So origins matter to us. The story of origin matters to us. And we also understand that not all things are created equal. We don't believe that. We don't believe all things are created equal. And in fact, I can prove that to you. My son is a teenager now. I still remember when he was not. He was just like a baby. But I remember growing up, we had the opportunity of buying any shoe that we wanted for him. Once it fit, once it looked halfway decent, he would wear it. He liked it because a shoe is a shoe. But now as a teenager, there's a switch that goes off in his head that says, I no longer are wearing no-name shoes. You got to put a shoe on my foot that has a Nike on it. No longer am I wearing Nikes. I got to wear Nikes. Because he believes that all things aren't equal. That who made it determines the value that it has. Who created something gives it greater value than if it was created by someone else. And you all believe that too. We don't believe, ladies, that a Coach bag is the same as a regular bag you might buy at a regular store that is a whole lot cheaper. You wash that Coach bag a whole lot differently. We believe it too with cars. I remember having the opportunity to drive someone's car that had a name with just 3 letters, BMW. And you drive that thing a little differently. You make sure you don't get too close to people. You park way on the end of the parking lot because you don't want anyone scratching your car. But if you got a hoopty, an old car, you kind of just beat it around because you recognize origin matters. Who created something gives it value. Are we all together? Does everybody agree? That who makes something determines its value. So as we talk about this, I want us to be clear that in this discussion, we're not going to clear up every question. There will be questions that will be left, and that's where faith comes in. Because on either end of the spectrum, whatever theory you use to determine your belief of origin, you have to exercise faith. Whether you're using the atheist view of just no one creating, or you're over here and you believe that there is a creator who made everything. Every belief system involves faith. So today, what I want to do just simply is this, to look at 2 views of how we got here. Just 2 different schools of thought. And understand, I'm looking at 2 schools of thought on 2 different ends of the spectrum. But if we go from here to here, there are views that will be so varied and different that we can't go into all of them. But I want us to just indulge it, if you indulge me, and let's just examine them and see what the value is of each, how it answers life's questions, but also what the implications of each view are. Is that all right? And then we'll have some time to discuss. So one of the things I want us to understand is whenever you have a theory, your theory can determine the answers you come up with. So when you start your theory, wherever you start, can determine the answers you come up with. No one ever starts a theory with a blank slate. You have to make certain suppositions. You have to make certain assumptions. So where you start can determine where you end up. And the second thing I want us to understand is whatever conclusion you come to determines the way that life is lived. We're going to come back to those 2. I just got to say that. But where you start determines where you end, and where you end, in terms of your beliefs, determines how you live life. So there are two schools of thought really that have been really popular. And there's this guy I want to show on the screen, and his name is Charles Darwin. I think we've all heard of that guy. He is probably the most prominent proponent of the school of thought called evolution, naturalistic evolution. And his supposition and his theory started by saying there was no one outside of the universe who started this whole thing. There was no supernatural being. There's no intervention from someone on high. But it all started through a process of mutation. There is one single organism that started things, but through the process of natural selection, now everything is here. And so we all have a common ancestry. That's his basic premise. And I'm not making a real general description of it, but his basic premise is no one started this thing, but through natural selection, through mutation of different life forms, we got to where we are as human beings. And again, I say, he started with the supposition that there is no God, that there is no one outside of us that starts the system. Now, his theory presupposes that non-living chemicals, if given the right amount of time, could develop into living matter. But one of the things that I want us to understand is this theory is not just one that you study in science. It's not just one that's relegated to biology, but it's one that actually has an effect on all of life, because whatever you believe affects how you live life. So here is what one leading scientist said. This is Dr. William Provine, and I want you to go to the next slide. He says, if evolution is true, here's what he says. One is, if evolution is true, there's no evidence for God. And that makes sense to us. If you believe this, you can't believe there's a God, because we all just evolved from a lower life form to where we are now. The second is, there's no life after death. There is, after we're done, this is it. So those young people who believe in YOLO, man, that makes sense. Because if evolution is true, when you die, that's it. You might as well enjoy life to the fullest. The third is, there's no absolute foundation for right and wrong. And that's a big one for us, because we all want to find out what's the reason why this is right and why this is wrong. And why can you tell me what's right and what's wrong? Well, unless you are above me, at least unless you are an ultimate being, you are not allowed to define right and wrong. So he's saying if evolution is true, then there's no absolute foundation for right or wrong. Number 4 says there's no ultimate meaning for life. I mean, we're just on this collision course with death. And number 5 is people really don't have free will. Now, that's not a theologian. And so this has even been used to justify racism. Anybody else has ever seen that? Like, it's been used to justify racism because this whole survival of the fittest has been taken to another conclusion. And so that's one theory of how the world got here. Now, there's some challenges with this evolutionary theory. And I'm not going to go into all of them. But what I want to do is to get us here to another theory of how we got here. And it's probably one that we're mostly familiar with, and many of us may actually be adherents to that. But there are some implications to that I want us to grasp and to see the power of it today. Is that all right? So here is what the second theory is, the theory of creationism. And the creationism theory it shows a supernatural God that is involved in the creation of the world. Now, I need to pause and say this, that this is important. I think there is a misnomer that says that science and a belief in intelligent design, that there is someone who designed the world as an ultimate being, and that's who we call God. I think there's a misnomer that science and belief in God, however you might construct him, that they're at odds with each other. But I need to just show you 3 points that show you that science can actually enhance our belief and our confidence that there is someone greater than us. You know, they used to sing the song, someone greater than you and I. And here are 3 reasons, because the design in the universe points to an intelligent designer. There's just something about us that when we see great design, we don't think that just happened by accident. You don't go out and see a great painting and say, man, that was some paint that just got spilled on the wall. No, you say there has to be someone who painted that, who took some time, who crafted that with an awesome mind. And as we look at the human body and the way it functions, there is something that tells us that our design internally must be the result of an intelligent designer. There's something that tells us when we look at plants and the way our ecosystem works, there is an intelligent designer. But even as you look up into the heavens and you look at the wonder of the heavens and the stars and the galaxies, there is something that says, and it screams to us, this is not an accident. There is an intelligent designer. So science believes and kind of almost points us to something greater. The second thing is that the fine-tuning in the universe points to intelligent fine-tuning. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that the conditions that we live in our world are just perfect for us as human beings. If we were just a little bit closer to the sun, we would burn. If we were just a little bit further away, we would freeze to death. And the combination of the atmosphere is just perfect to maintain human life form. There has to be something that tells us that there is someone who set this switch just perfectly for me. That it just didn't happen where not only am I here, but the conditions that have me here are perfectly designed for me to flourish and to make it. And the third is simply this. The information decoded in DNA points to a divine decoder. When you look at the human DNA, man, the information inside of that says that there was someone who was writing some code. There was someone who was designing this. So then when you look at it and you read it, it points to the hand of an intelligent designer. So really, that's just 3 points that I want you to know, that science and religion, science and a belief in God don't have to be at odds with each other, because there is something that tells us as we look deeper into what is created or what is there, that man, maybe there is someone who actually created this. It just didn't happen. All right? So here's what I want to do now. I want us to look at this theory that is from the Bible, that is from the scriptures, and it paints a picture of a creator. And it begins the book of Genesis this way. It says, Genesis 1 and 2, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light was good. And God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day. The darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning, the first day. Wow. So this story that we're reading, this depiction, this school of thought about how we got here, says that there is a God who is intimately connected with his creation. Now, this account does not take the time to introduce God and say, let me tell you about God. No, it actually presents God as he is doing something. In the beginning, God created. And so it makes a point here of letting us know that God is God because he's created something. So he's not God if he didn't create, and he created, so he's God. Does that make sense? Let me make sure, put that slide up so they can see it, because that helps you to see it a little better. He's not God if he didn't create, and he created, so he's God. So his whole reputation in the book of Genesis, as he introduces himself to us, says, because I did this, then I am who I say I am. But if you don't believe I did this, then I'm not who I say I am. And so God stakes his reputation and introduces himself by what he's done. And so we have an account of the creation of the earth that is depicted in Genesis 1 and in Genesis 2. And there are a few things that we look at in the Genesis account that I believe give us something that calls to our heart that I want us to consider. One is that the God of Genesis presents a creation story that is perfectly in order. It starts off with a world that is without form and without void. It's darkness that's covering everything. And we don't know the time lapse between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. It says God creates this world, and then he steps into this world that is formless and is void, and then he begins to speak creation into existence. And isn't it amazing that the story we're presented of is not one where people come on the scene first and then a home is made for them, but the order is the environment is created. He populates the earth with the air, and he puts a grassy carpet on the world, and he begins to develop trees and fruits. And then he begins to fill the air with birds and fill the water with fish. And then he begins to fill the land now that has vegetation with animals and fill the world with people. Because the story we're presented of is one of a God who presents and creates things in order. The second thing that kind of jumps out to us as we look at that story is one of a God. You so much satisfaction. You say, I don't even need anyone else to celebrate me. I'll just pat myself on the back. That was a good job. Man, that's what God does. He creates something. He says, it's good. He creates something else and he says, it's good. And he gets to the end of this creation story and he creates humanity. He creates a man and a woman. He says, now it's not just good, man. It's very good. We find a story of a God who's not detached from what he creates, but he's intimately connected with it. And so that's one theory. Now, I should be honest to say that there are questions that people have, legitimate questions, based on some things in the earth that we say, our earth seems older than would be indicated by this Genesis account. It seems that maybe there was some decay that happened, and we wonder, based on fossil items under the earth, and we wonder, okay, how do you account for that? And I think that's a challenge that we all have to wrestle with, because we don't want to be blind in our understanding, but I think that there's some legitimate theories that we can present for that, including the flood. And one of the things, as a quick plug, we want to actually take questions that people have this coming Tuesday online and interact with that. What are some of the challenges we might have even with this creation story? But first of all, what I want you to see is, if you end up on this side here and you believe in evolution, naturalistic evolution, there is no one outside of us that starts this, it entails certain things. It will bring certain things along with it. And those things are, there is no God, there is no life after death, there's no ultimate meaning, no one determines right or wrong, and there's nothing that guides us. But then also, if we believe the creation story, this is what I want to get us to. I believe that there are actually some conclusions, if you believe that I want to challenge us with. And there are three of them that I want you to put on the screen. Here's the first one I want us to see. The first conclusion, if you believe in creationism, is simply this. This is the second to last slide, son. It's simply this. It says, the one who made something is best qualified to tell how to use it. All right. My children get used in all these stories, okay? And I hear about it later on. But man, y'all make great stories, I promise you. So I don't know if this has ever happened to you, whereas you might have a child or someone who is younger than you, and they make something for you. And they make it and they bring it to you, and they say, look what I made for you. Now, if you are like me and you begin to get ahead of the story, you take it and you begin to use it in the way that you think it should be used. So it looks like a plane. You say, oh, I gotta fly it like a plane. They say, hold up. This is not a plane. This is a trumpet. Now it looks like a plane to you and me. But they made it, so because the child has made it, they are able to tell you best how it should be used. Now, maybe to your mind, it feels like this is a plane, it should be thrown this way. But to them, they say it's a trumpet. And you respect it. You know why you respect it? Because the one who made something is best qualified to tell how to use it. And the reason I say that is, if we adhere and we believe in the creation story, that there is a God who created all things, what then must be a conclusion is, if he's the one that made it, he's best qualified to say how it should be used. So if I look at my body, there may be some things that I think about my body, man, I can just do whatever I want because this makes sense to me, but the one who made it is best qualified to say how to use it. Number two, how I treat something reflects the way we regard the owner of it. If we believe the creation story in Genesis, God is not just the creator, he is the ultimate owner that we must give account to. So how I use my body, how I use the resources around me, and even the way I treat the people around me, because they are made in the image of God, reflects what I think about the God that I believe created this world. The third thing I want to say is the best evidence you can present for anything you believe is to live your life authentically to reflect it. Here is this. I think for so many people, the challenge they have with those who might say they believe in one thing is that their beliefs and their behavior are not lining up. So if I say I believe that God is the creator, my actions should reflect that, so much so that I move from being a believer to being evidence. Have you ever listened to the radio and they've said we have a clinical trial and we want 500 people to try this product? And this product, it promises, I don't care what the promise is, it promises to make you jump high enough that you can dunk whether you're a 5'0" or not. Well, man, you listen to that thing, you go, what? Why are they offering me to use this product for free? Man, sometimes they say, I'll pay you. Well, there's a reason why. Because they recognize that in order for you to get people to buy into something, you need more than a good story. You need more than a good advertising campaign. You need more than a good video. What you actually need is evidence. Walking, breathing evidence. And so they ask you to try it. They want you to, first of all, be a believer. Believe this thing. Try it. But after you've gone past the stage of being a believer, when you try it and you can actually fly like Michael Jordan, man, you've moved from being a believer to being evidence. And that's my challenge to those of us who accept this as the story of how the world is created. God is looking for people to move from being believers to being evidence, to say, if God created the world and he created me, then I should treat my body, I should treat those around me, and I should even value the environment enough that I care for it in such a way that people think, wow, this person must really believe in something greater than themselves. All right, here's what we do here at Journey Connect. We don't just talk this way, we talk around our tables. You've probably encountered that a little bit already. And so we want to put some questions on the screen and ask you to honestly dialogue around your table. Now, I'm fully aware that our views may be different, but the overarching view is that we love each other, all right? And so our views may be different, but we want to hear that dialogue. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put the first question on the screen, put about 2.5 minutes on and some soft music, and ask you to dialogue with the people around your table on the question that we have. What are some of the theories you've heard from others about the origin of humanity? What are some of the theories you've heard from others about the origin of humanity? Let's go.